Nvidia tonight, a few hours away from the company's first quarter results coming after the close. Stock is near the break-even point for the year and up more than 40% from those lows. Wedbush analyst Dan Ives is here at Post 9 talk about what he expects for the quarter. He's got a buy rating and a target of 175. Dan, good morning. Good to see you. What do you think is going to be the story tonight?
I think it's all going to be about what demand looks like. Obviously, China will be the headwind in terms of H20. But what they see from sovereigns and ultimately more and more enterprise. And we think in terms of big tech CapEx, that's actually going to exceed $325 billion. So I think the net, this is going to be one, when you hear from the godfather of AI, Jensen, it's going to be bullish. I view it as a bright green light for tech because it's going to show, despite the fears, demand still outstripping supply 8-1, even when you X out China.
What do you think, what is his calculus on China? He's got so many different constituencies to please on that one, right?
Look, I think it's a $3 billion headwind basically going into this quarter. But I think that's something that's already started factored in. I think the way the street's going to look at the quarter, it's less focused on the quarter. It's more on, okay, what does Middle East be? What is sovereigns? What does that bring in? And I think for him, it's a balancing act because he needs to play nice in the sandbox when it comes to 202 area code, but also doesn't want to give away that China business to Huawei. And that right now is that sort of balancing act for Jensen.
Do you think their product rollout schedule is back to being smooth? Fewer hiccups like we saw in 24?
Yeah, we saw much less hiccups in terms of supply chain, everything we saw in Asia. Yeah. And I think it just comes down to, Carl, like there's one chip in the world fueling the AI revolution, and it's led by Jensen and Nvidia. And I think even though others trying to narrow the gap, that's the reality. And I think also speaks to Trump administration knows their big poker chip in all this negotiation. It's Nvidia as well as Apple.
So so the cancellation of the diffusion rule. This was like a big deal on the Middle East trip that they went on. Is that going to be reflected in guidance?
So I think it's still too early there. But based on our estimate, I mean, we think this ultimately opens up another $1 trillion of market opportunity, not just for Nvidia, but for AI revolution. When you think about Middle East, all the data center build outs, what this ultimately means. And I think the commentary that Jensen's going to talk about is what they see in the pipeline. That's why, in our view, the quarter, okay, I think guidance will be generally in line, maybe slightly better. But I think what the street's focus on is what does this mean for medium-term outlook? Does this change any of their sort of plans? And I think this is going to be a huge vote of confidence for the AI revolution. In my opinion, this is going to be a catalyst that you'll see tech new highs.
You think everything, I mean, if in fact you're right that everything gets floated upward.
I mean, look, and we've talked, obviously it started off white knuckles. We navigated through it. You've seen steps off the cliff in terms of de-escalation of tariffs. But it comes down to, like, this is a fourth industrial revolution. And when you look at the amount spent, for every dollar spent on a NVIDIA chip, there's a $10 multiplier across the rest of tech. That's why you see from software to nuclear, ACO and others. And I think that right now, the use cases, as you've talked about a lot, use cases are playing out. Palantir, Snowflake, and I think you're going to see more.
So why is it flat this year, NVIDIA?
Because I think it's all about, right now, they're in the eye of the storm. And I believe this quarter is going to be a huge positive inflection point. We call it 175, bull case 225, to what I believe this is going to be the charge to not just but I believe $5 trillion market cap and look at the next few years, despite the tariff fears.
So you think, after the call today and tomorrow we're sitting here, you might be on with us again, we're going to say, oh, now we've got what? We've got more visibility to 27 and 28 in terms of earnings, and you feel comfortable with the target price in the 200s?
And I think that's maybe even conservative relative to my view of like physical AI. We're only 2% through in terms of AI penetration. Really zero Europe, zero in terms of Asia ex-China. So you start thinking, and there's only one chip fueling it. So my opinion continues to be the AI party. It started at 9 p.m. It's now about 10:30 p.m., goes to 4 a.m. And it's led ultimately by, you look at Jensen, you look at the chip. You can't go anywhere without that. That's why Middle East, everyone's focused on, could I get up in line ahead of China? That continues to be the focus.
Fair to say that in the month of April, tariffs and policy darkened your view significantly, right?
There was an Armageddon moment.
Yes, I know. So I guess my question is, how confident are you there won't be a repeat of that?
Yeah, my view is just the de-escalation that we've seen from D.C. They recognize that some of what they were talking about was basically impossible, so they've had to de-escalate. Now you start to see more and more negotiations. Look, will there be, some sort of tariffs? Is it going to complicate supply chain? Of course. Apple clearly needs to navigate its own situation relative to India. But my view is that now you're starting to get to a level set where if it's 10, 15% tariffs, you can navigate that, but that is not changing in terms of tech, in terms of AI spending, in terms of enterprise. And that's our view, that this is still, we're in the second inning of a 9-inning game relative to where AI plays. And that's why I think this is going to be an inflection point when you hear from Godfather of AI, Jensen.